called echo cancellation.
Welcome in, everyone, to Nebraska Cornhuskers Live. We're here every Tuesday night talking Nebraska football with you. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss a show, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for the notifications. That way, you know when we're going live, which, again, is typically on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock there in Nebraska. But because of schedules, sometimes we've got to move the show. That way you want to have those notifications on. We got Greg Peterson on the line. Of course, he's the staple. He's the anchor. He's the core of the show here from Husker Online on Rivals. Greg, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, fellas. How about you guys?
Good. We got Zach Reeder on the line also from Fifth Quarter College Football. Good to see you, Zach. How's it going tonight?
Oh, it's going good. How you doing?
Doing just fine. Zach, since we haven't seen you for a while, maybe I'll hit you up first. Just your impressions of how things are going since Nebraska was last on the field on that chilly night in Piscataway against Rutgers. Of course, they brought in a recruiting class. They went to spring practice and wrapped it up with the spring game there in Lincoln in front of 36,000. So anything strike you in particular in regards to what's transpired over the last few months?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One, I liked what I saw from the people that were healthy in the spring game. I didn't get to watch it live. I watched parts of it after. But I did like to see some of the things that I saw, the downfield throwing. I thought there was a physical run game. That was really good to see. Physical on both ends, on the front, on defensive and offensive front. And, I think the other thing to hit on is just the transfers there's been. But, it's the day and age we live in. So there's not really much you can do about it.
Good stuff. Good to know that we're making life more bearable for Mustrick here tonight, who has to give 3 daughters a bath. But Voice of College Football Talk makes giving my 3 daughters a bath more tolerable. Okay.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, well, I only had to do it with one, but 2 kids at the same time. But so there you go. We provide a service at least with that. All right. We will let everybody know that's watching us here in the live stream that you ultimately produce the show. So leave your comments, your questions, and your debate topics there in the live chat, and we will respond to those. Greg, what you been working on this week?
It's been pretty quiet, actually. Just kind of gearing up here for, the start of recruiting kind of heating back up here when the dead period lifts here June 1st. So, just kind of watching, what's going on in the transfer portal and, kind of, looking to see, some of those targets, seeing if they're, getting close. I know we talked last week about their number one quarterback target, MJ Miller, MJ Morris was nearing a decision. We were expecting one last week, and he's taking a little bit more time right now. It's he's down, like we said last week, between Georgia Tech, Nebraska, and North Carolina State. And he came and visited for the spring game and was blown away, and it looked like it was pretty much a lock for Nebraska. But kind of the longer this goes on, I start to like Georgia Tech's chances with him more and more. As he only lives about 40 minutes away from campus, so that's kind of hard to beat, to pluck a kid out of his own backyard. So we'll see. So he some of the Rivals guys had caught up with him over the weekend at Elite 11, and he said he doesn't have a timetable right now on his decision, which, like we said, it's kind of a change from what he had originally planned. So we'll see where that goes. And we mentioned last week that there's some other targets out there if things don't work out. So we're kind of watching that and kind of looking, what else Nebraska is looking for out of the transfer portal. And I think we can say with 100% certainty that they're gonna sign a corner here. You know, a corner with some experience, for sure. Here, and there's three big names that they're kind of looking at. In that area, and one of them's a Caleb Evans. He's from Tulsa, and he's an NFL draft pick type guy, and looking for another year to put some film out there for the NFL scouts and stuff like that. So he'd be nice if they could sign him, or they're looking at Ohio State, Tyreek Johnson, and Travion Fuller as well from Texas A&M. So expect Nebraska to grab one of those three guys here out of the transfer portal to kind of bolster that competition at that second corner spot. And other than that, we're just kind of waiting for, like I said, waiting for June 1st.
That speculation that you just mentioned, Greg, does that come from just people that know, like yourself, that just know the team and know where the thin spots are? Or has Scott Frost actually stepped out and said, hey, we're in the portal for these specific positions? Because I know Ed Ogeron at LSU, for example, said during the spring, we're looking for a linebacker, we're looking for corner help. So has Scott Frost actually stated what they're needing?
Most of the talk was about quarterback, and he'd kind of put that to rest. And, besides that, it was just kind of in general stuff. But, talking, with coaches and stuff like that, that's what sounds like, a key need that they're looking at right now. Not that they don't like what they have, but they would just like to add some more experience at that corner position. So, and we've talked about that's the one out of the 11 positions that doesn't have a returning starter at until the Will Honus injury. So it's pretty well known. It's just I don't think Scott Frost. I haven't heard him specifically say we're taking a corner, but that's the general thought right now, along with the insiders that have a lot of contact with the coaching staff.
And as you mentioned, Tyreek Johnson, boy, when he came out of high school, he was the first or second rated corner. He was a 5-star at that point, hasn't been able to make a big move at Ohio State. So he would be a good get as well as those other guys.
Yes, you see sometimes that those highly rated guys don't work out at a school like Ohio State, right? Instead of always being at Nebraska.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, like you said, I think that, today college football is different, and you get these guys that are talented and they don't want to stick it out for 4 years. Sometimes they don't play after 2 years and they want an opportunity to play right away, so they're going to jump to a school. That's why LSU got some help in the portal, because they came out and said specifically what help they needed at what positions. And sometimes that helps, and sometimes it seems a little bit desperate and doesn't put the team in the best spot. So, Scott Frost, he doesn't really seem like the type of guy to go out there and specifically say the positions. So I am really curious, though, because I watched some stuff on Evans, and I think he's, like you said, he's an NFL talent. He's a big body, too.
Zach, we get this question each and every week. It's a constant conversation here and elsewhere, even not producing Nebraska video necessarily today. I've been hit with it a few times. What is your win/performance objective for Scott Frost? What do you think it should be? What do you think Nebraska believes it should be for him to be around in 2022?
Yeah, it's tough for me to judge, obviously if he should stick around, what record he needs. But if I'm going to go out there and put a record out there, I'd probably say, you need to be 500. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that you need to be 500. It's a difficult schedule. It's going to produce some challenges in the non-conference and in conference. So I think that, he needs to, obviously, as an optimistic fan, like I am every year, and like every college football fan is, I'm going to sit here and hope for a 7-5, 8-4 season. you don't want to jump too far. I see a lot of fans on Twitter and stuff that are like, we can go 9-3, 10-2. Well, that's just too much of a jump. And I don't know why they put that in their own heads, because then they set themselves up for disappointment, obviously, with how the past couple of years have been. So I think, baby steps while you're at it, and, being competitive in every game like Nebraska has been, the last year and a half, but putting more wins on the board late in those games. So, that's 7-5, but not getting blown out in those big games. And there's a couple of big opportunities for Nebraska this year.
Greg, we've got a question coming in from DJ here, who's asking about the MJ Moore's commitment and him holding out. A positive thing for Nebraska. Seems like the longer he waits, the more likely he is going to be a commit to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, that's what I just said just a couple of minutes ago. But yeah, that's what I meant. The longer that this does hold out, the more I like Georgia Tech's chances here. And they've got a family relationship with is it Tashard Choice? Is that the assistant coach? I can't really remember off the top of my head, but
he is a former Georgia Tech running back, so that sounds like it would make sense.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the connection there. They're really tight. So it's going to be tough for the Huskers to get Morris. So if he would have made his choice last Wednesday, like we were expecting, then I think it would have been Nebraska. Now I'd probably say 60-40-ish that Georgia Tech's got the lead right now. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how long this plays out, and how long Nebraska stays put and doesn't take one of the other guys that they're looking at as well. So, that's the fun thing about recruiting. There's games going on both sides sometimes, and these kids, they got a really important choice to make, and I think a lot of them feel pressured to make it early. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm around these kids every year when they made their choice, and to me, I think the pressure is just amazing that they have to go through when you got a choice to make between several Power 5 schools, and they're telling you this, and another school's telling you that, and and like we've talked about before, it's all about relationships. So with that relationship that they have with Coach Choice, that's what you're looking for, and I would not be shocked that he ends up there.
Got D-Rock Irish on the line asking about cornerback. Greg's addressed that. So D-Rock, just wait for the video to post. So as soon as we get done here live, the video is going to be online and posted about 15 minutes after that. So just check that out. But Greg has certainly gone through the transfer portal in regards to Nebraska's needs and where they're headed at cornerback.
Well, obviously Notre Dame wants him. About every big-time school out there wants him. So he's got his pick of where he wants to go. I wanted to bounce back. I think we missed Musica's question there a second ago about the NFL talent. Mustrick, sorry about that. I think he hits the nail right on the head there. For so many years now, you're wondering if a Nebraska player is going to get taken in the draft. It's like one guy. It seems like that's about it every year. When you used to be a school right up there that led college football, a number of guys that were in the NFL, and I see that exactly, and I think we've talked about that before. That just the eyeball test when you see these guys on the squad now is what you want to see. These guys are all, take your pick. They all look like monsters now. So yeah, the talent level's definitely increased, and now the challenge is exactly, can they develop that talent? And so far that's been a little bit difficult to do, and hopefully they've turned the corner now, and you got the guys there. You're trying to adapt your offense to to playing in a league, more of a power offense. So I think they're doing that, and you're going to start seeing more and more Huskers getting drafted again on that first night of the draft and early on rounds.
So, Greg, I'll start with you with this one. Go ahead, Zach.
I was just going to ask Greg if, the way I look at it, I see a lot more talent on the front lines, on both front lines. That's where I see probably the biggest difference in NFL talent, just all around too. Like, I think every single guy, it seems like, has a chance compared to the last couple of years. You're like, oh, maybe there's one. But I think that's the biggest difference.
Absolutely.
Got Russell, who we'll let you know, Russell, of course, we're talking Nebraska football. This is a Nebraska show, but he's curious about his thoughts, our thoughts on Chris Kleiman from North Dakota State going to Kansas State, has 2 wins against Oklahoma, and Scott Frost yet to have a win to hang his hat on. So he's making a comparison again, Kansas State, Nebraska, you would say at this stage of the game, not historically certainly, but at this stage of the game, pretty much on the same tier, the same level generally, although Kansas State's been a little bit more successful recently, just going to bowl games, but pretty much on the same tier. But Chris Kleiman, his record and his accomplishments at North Dakota State were ridiculous. Go back, look at his record, barely losing games, winning championships like 4 out of 5 years, goes to Kansas State. Bill Snyder, a tough act to follow there. What that guy accomplished, I can go on about that some other time and have after he retired, but it's ridiculous to make the comparison, and I don't think he gets his due because Kansas State football was in the abyss forever before he took it over. But Kleiman takes over there. Yeah, didn't have a great season this past year. I believe they went 4-6, 5-6, something in that range. But they did beat Oklahoma for a second straight year, and Nebraska's had its shot against Ohio State a couple of years ago in Columbus, where they came within a score and took Iowa down to the wire a few times, which wouldn't be quite the level of an Oklahoma win, but certainly a top 15 or 20 team. So, Greg, what it could do for a program to have that breakthrough against a big opponent, whether it's Wisconsin this year, Ohio State, Oklahoma, somebody like that.
Yeah, and that's what this fan base has been looking for. You need to get one of those signature wins, and it just so happens to set up with their schedule this year that you play 2 of the top 4 teams going into the season on your schedule. So you definitely have that chance to get one of those marquee wins. And Chris Kleiman, like you said, he's had tremendous success, and that coaching tree, it kind of started before him at North Dakota State. 8 out of the last 9 until Sam Houston just won here on Sunday over South Dakota State. But and it's funny because those guys, they got Nebraska ties. Those guys all recruit the state of Nebraska big time. So yeah, you've seen Wyoming and K-State both pluck guys out of North Dakota State, and good for Chris Kleiman. He got a great gig out of the deal, and I think he's going to build a winner at K-State. They're used to some success there under Bill Schneider, and it hasn't been quite the same. After his second comeback, and in recent years they haven't been quite the power that they were. But it's not like we're talking about Kansas either, where that's a program that you don't expect that anybody can really bring out of the abyss. But you never know, because look at Iowa State. Iowa State's like projected to win 11 games, I think, this year. So you never know, and that's Scott Frost needs to get one of those, and I think one of those just goes a long way in letting your team believe that now you can play with these kind of guys, and the fan base needs it, I think, even more, and just like Zach said, you got to at least go 500 this year and make a bowl game and show some progress. And winning one of those big games is going to go a long way for that. And maybe you do get to, maybe that 7-5 mark or something like that. So, absolutely.
Yeah, it's super hard to make that like big jump too. I see the question on the bottom, and I think that, in this day and age in college football, I think it feels like it's impossible to, go from a 4-8 team to a 10-2 the next year in a power conference with how many talented teams there are and how much talent is on each roster. I think it's getting harder and harder. So I think when you're down where Nebraska is at now with the talent they have, I think you just have to build your way back up slow and steady. Not necessarily saying that they can't go 8-4, 9-3, but I think that's, the mindset you have to have. And obviously, the guys in the locker room probably have the mindset they can win every single game, and they should. But it's definitely more difficult today in college football to do what, an Iowa State has done over the past couple of years.
Yeah, and Joseph, he's hitting it right on the head there too, because, that's what this program needs to get back to is, this was built on the Husker power. You were winning games because you were bigger and stronger and meaner than everybody else in the trenches. And you were going to run all over them. And you told them you were going to do it, and they couldn't stop you. And that's, just like we were talking about earlier, that's one of the biggest differences that you see right now in this team now is that you do have a bunch of those big, nasty players now in the trenches. And I think Nebraska fans are going to be pleasantly surprised with the improvements that they're going to see on the offensive line. And we all know that, the defense is already strong and has a chance to be a special defense. So, the baby steps is – he's right. That's what they've been taking, and it's time to show that you're ready to move up and start competing for that that conference title year in and year out.
We talk Nebraska football here every week with Greg Peterson from Husker Online on Rivals, and folks, if you want to check out tons of practice footage and news conferences with the coaching staff during spring practice and player interviews, just great stuff involving the other sports as well, but primarily football. Check out Husker Online right here on YouTube. They've got a great video service that Greg's in charge of there. We also have Zach Reeder on the line this week from Fifth Quarter College Football. And Russell, not to disparage your comment here saying wins are the cure. That's like saying for the person who's sick, what's the cure? Well, it's to get well. Well, no, that's the result. How do you do that? Feeling better when you're sick. Yeah, that's great. If you said what's the cure? Well, just to feel better. No, how does that happen? Well, that's the complex issue right now that we sort through with Nebraska football is how do you win the games? Yes, that is the cure. That is the result that everybody's looking for. Let me ask this, Greg, and then Zach, you can follow up. We talk about these 10 players back on defense, only missing the one corner. So it's one thing to say 10 starters back on defense. That always sounds good, but the defense was what? Middle of the pack in the Big Ten. And I'm not just talking statistically. I'm talking about in real life, real football, in terms of their effectiveness, the quality of the defense, middle of the pack. So do we think that this is a defense that can, with those 10 starters back, has a ceiling to grow into a top-level Big Ten defense and perform like that on the field? Or is it just, okay, 10 starters are back, they know what they're doing, they know what spots to be in, but there's only so much ceiling there to be a top-level defense?
No, I think that's their goal is to be one of those top tier defenses in the league, and they believe that they have the guys there to do it now. And so I don't think middle of the pack's not going to be good enough for Coach Shenander. We've mentioned before that he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't get enough credit for some of the things that he's done, and we're talking about a defense too that how many times last year did they get put in a hole and bend but don't break and keep the team in the game when all of a sudden you're giving the other team the ball, inside the 10-yard line. So, offense cutting down some of those turnovers goes a long way to, help out all those defensive statistics that everybody likes to hang their hat on. So, like I said, they don't believe that they're going to be a middle of the pack defense, and I don't think so either. I think that they're going to be up there, top half, top 3 or 4 defenses in the league.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the players they got back too, I mean, you should have a lot of faith in the secondary. I know they're still working on the battle at that second cornerback position, but we mentioned the D-line earlier. I expect them to be nastier. I think it's going to be really curious to see what happens in Honus's spot at that linebacker position. That's a big spot to fill because of that injury. But it's always great to have a guy like JoJo Doman around who can just play every position at any time. So I think that's – I mean, when you have that game changer on the defense, it can make that defense jump from a top 50-ish defense to a team that can get up there in the top 30 when you have a guy that's that special.
All right, talking Nebraska football, everybody. Leave your comments, your questions, and debate topics there in the section to your right there in the live chat. And, of course, we're here every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern and 7 o'clock Central. Got Zach Reeder on the line from Fifth Quarter College Football. And, of course, the guy that anchors this thing and holds it down, Greg Peterson from Husker Online, breaking down the Huskers every week for us. All right, and would love to have bigger and bigger crowds in here each and every week. So tell people that we talk Nebraska football here every week. Share the links and just let people know that we're here talking Nebraska football. Joseph, why hasn't Scott Frost asked Grant Wistrom, Dominican Sue, a number of people he's mentioning from the past, have them come back to the program and tell these kids what is acceptable and what it takes to be black shirt?
He has, and they have. He's opened up his arms to any former player to, they have an open invitation to stop by anytime they want. And, they had that was a big deal here last summer, before, dealing with COVID and stuff. And they had some of those, big name black shirts come back and with summer conditioning and talk to those guys. And I'm sure that, there'll be some other times here when they get a bunch of them together and prep the defense and kind of tell them what it's like to be a black shirt and what they expect out of you as a black shirt. So yeah, it's been happening.
I think that comment on the bottom too, I think it's perfect. Honestly, I think our defense can hold people under 21 per game. And if you get that, with this type of offense, as Greg hit it earlier, just limit the turnovers. If you don't put the defense in a bad position, when they got 70 yards to work with last year, they were fantastic. When they were backed up, that's when things kind of seemed to unravel for them. But, if you get an offense that doesn't put them in a bad position, I mean, I think that, there's a lot of possibilities with this team with the talent that they have.
Yeah, if you look at last season, Ohio State scored 52. That was 52-17. The game was closer than that. If you compare that effort against what they did against the Buckeyes in 18 and 19, that was certainly a much better effort. It was a competitive game. If you just watch the play on the field, it was a competitive game. Certainly Ohio State much better, but much of a more competitive game than it had been. They held Northwestern to 21. They held Penn State to 23. They held, the Illinois game got away from them 41-23. They held Iowa to 26, Purdue 27, Minnesota 24, Rutgers 21. So outside of one game, And the Ohio State game, they were keeping everyone in the low 20s.
You scored 28 points a game, and you got a pretty good record there.
Yep. Yes, you do. Moonbot 7, good to see you here. Greg is right, but they'll be playing at least 4 top 20 offenses, with 2 being national championship contenders. So the stats will be a little discouraging, but improvement will still be made on the defensive side.
And I think where you see the biggest difference too is those 50-50 games that they haven't been able to win, that we're just talking about right here. Your Iowa's, that Illinois game, games that you're supposed to be winning. And if you do what you're supposed to do and take care of these teams, then you're not worried about trying to scrape by just to make a bowl game. Then you can concentrate more on competing with the Iowas and the Wisconsins to get the right to go play in Indy. So, that's where the biggest difference I think this defense is going to make is that you're going to hold teams down there to the 20, 21 point range, and barring these horrible mistakes the offense makes and the special teams has made, I expect this offense to be able to put up 30, 35 points a game, and right there you're probably you do that, you're looking at 7 or 8 wins.
Yeah, and if you're able to do that with, putting up 30, 35 points, and you're establishing those grueling drives that end up being 7 minutes because you're working the ground game, you're working screens, you're getting those chunks 5, 5, 5, that kills off a lot of the clock and forces, opposing offenses to be put in a situation where they take too many chances too fast. And then you end up in a position where you're in the fourth quarter and they're at 10 points. So that's exactly where they want to be. You just have to limit the mistakes and be able to consistently make plays on the offensive end, which it seemed like Nebraska was just too hit and miss in that category from a year ago.
Hey, Cheryl, good to see you. As always, you know that. Cheryl's our moderator. Good to see you, Cheryl. Cheryl's a Buckeyes fan. Cheryl, I'm just going to push back a little bit, say holding teams to under 21 points is not happening. Well, I would agree with that to a certain extent. Of course, I would think it would be a monumental effort if they held Ohio State to 21 points or Oklahoma to 21 points. But we're talking about the bulk of the schedule. So the bulk of the schedule, Greg and I had this conversation a few weeks ago about kind of that next chunk of teams. And I'm not disrespecting Northwestern. I know that they have won the division 2 of the last 3 years, but from a talent standpoint and where the program is, I think Wisconsin and to a lesser degree Iowa are the best programs in the conference in the division right now. That there's that next block of Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue, those 3, kind of Minnesota, just that next block of teams that Nebraska should beat almost all the time. So instead of like splitting those games and going 2-2, 2-3, 3-3 against those teams, and then you could carry that over to the Big Ten East when they play a Maryland or somebody like that, Michigan State, they should, if they want to get to where they want to get, which is right there battling with Iowa and Wisconsin the last couple of weekends of the season for the Western Division, then you got to beat those teams almost all the time, if not all the time. So those are the teams, I guess, if I'm reading you guys right, it's realistic to say, our defense should be able to hold those teams in check, hold them to 21 points on average, the Minnesotas, the Northwesterns, the Illinois, and we'll beat them. We should beat them by 10, 15 points. And then we'll concern ourselves with the next rung there.
Yeah, that's absolutely what we've been talking about the whole time. And you bring that running game up, and you like we've talked about so many times about looking for that identity, and that power running game is, I think, what everybody's wanting that identity to be, and that's a key to success. And I think back to last week, I don't think we answered the question, but somebody had asked, what do you bet that the first offensive play of the year is a swing pass? I hope it's not. That's all I can say. I hope it's a run right up the middle. So that's what we want to see around here, at least.
I don't know. I kind of want it to be a swing pass that works for a big game so that nobody knows what to say anymore. No, but I know what you're saying. And, when you look at that next tier of Big Ten teams that you're mentioning, they're not high-octane offenses either by any means. Those are teams that you should keep in check. If you want to be a good team, those are teams you should hold around 21 points without a question. Unless your offense puts you in a bad position, that's where it gets out of hand, like the Illinois game last year.
Yeah, so Moonbot's right there with that. Well, he's going with the screen pass, I believe, right here. He's a little frustrated with the Scott Frost version of screen passes. Man, once we dive into play calling, though, that can be a bit tricky because, hey, I watch a ton of football. I didn't play at a high level, played some high school football, didn't play at a high level. And so I rarely will say that's a bad play call, because when they work, they're great play calls. When they don't work, they're not great play calls. So is play calling important? Absolutely, it's important. It's very important. I think it's more important today than it was 20 or 25, 30 years ago, when teams were more separated in talent and there was more just flat out, are you stronger up front? Are you going to, because we're throwing the ball 12 or 15 times a game, who's better up front? Who's got the better athletes? Who's stronger? Versus, hey, can we really, for maybe a half until they figure it out, run this play, this formation, this play, and then run, you'll many times see a good offensive coordinator have success, or even if he doesn't, but then he runs something later in the game off of that really set up the defense. So play calling is extremely important. I think it's maybe a little overrated, because if the teams are out there executing, it's not like, I guess sometimes just watching social media and the comments that come in on a Saturday afternoon and Saturday night, we treat these coaches like they're idiots, and if they lost the game, they didn't know what they were doing. Well, let's all understand that somebody has to lose the game. That doesn't excuse losing, but both teams could be tremendously prepared, have their game plans down, have scratched and clawed and fought and done their very best, and both coaching staffs could be first rate and doing a great job, but somebody's got to lose. So technically somebody failed.
And we're all a backseat head coach, right? On Sundays or Mondays. But yeah, and I think, and you look at kind of the evolution of the game, which I think's affected play calling big time, is with technology these days and with the evolutions of offense. I mean, playbooks are so much bigger than they used to be. I mean, when we were coming up, Mark, a lot of the quarterbacks called their own plays. The good ones, most of the good ones called their own plays. So, I think, things have evolved, especially, with the, offensive gurus and stuff that you hear. And you need to find a balance of that. And I think that's affected, Scott Frost has taken a lot of heat for his play calling. And I know that his plan is kind of like, I think they started doing towards the end of last year, is that he was starting to share those responsibilities with offensive coordinator Matt Lubick up in the box. And, that's the nice thing about having those eyes up there in the box. These OCs, you see most of them, all the NFL ones are up in the box. You don't see them down on the field very often anymore, because they do get a chance to, see things develop, and later on they're going to keep that in their back pocket, and you see what the defense did on, the first couple times they defended it, and so it's such a chess game. it's not even funny. And I don't know. It would drive me nuts trying to coach. I remember taking coaching football back when I was a freshman in college. Coach Osborne taught the class, and you had to make your own playbook and all that, and just the detail that you had to go into and stuff. It kind of turned me. I mean, I thought I kind of wanted to coach at some point, and I don't. I think it'd be too much pressure for me. But especially that losing, it sticks with you. I think more than the winning does.
I was living in the wrong era, I'll tell you that. I want to take that class. I never got a class like that.
I was just about to say. You go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that Scott and his play calling, especially with the screen passes, that's obviously the most criticized part of his play calling. But I think, at times he tried a little bit too hard because he wanted to open the game up horizontally, to open it up so that the running game was just wide open. And it seemed like he tried too hard at times to do that when it just wasn't there. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that I saw. And, like Greg said, we're basically backseat, coaches. So we're just going to sit here and criticize what we want. But, when you can open up that horizontal game, you see what happens to a team like Alabama. They ran a ton of screen passes. When they did that, look what happened to Najee Harris. He was just running free all the time. So I think there's some give and take with it. If it does work, he's probably going to look like a genius. He just tries very, very hard to get that to work, and it just wasn't there last year a lot.
And I think too that you come from you come from Oregon first, and then you go to UCF, and you're recruiting different personnel at those two schools, and then you come to Nebraska, and you're still at the beginning. You're still recruiting those little fast guys that you made your living on, with it at Central Florida, and you were trying to win games 65 to 64 in that league. So you're in a different league now, and I think you've seen that they've figured out that they need to adapt, and you've seen this move now to these bigger bodied, all these big bodied pass catchers and mammoth offensive linemen and some power running backs now that to go along with those fast, shifty guys. So. I can't wait to see, this new kind of hybrid. And I think Coach Foss is, with all the weapons that at the disposal this year, I think you're definitely going to see difference in play calling. And, I think you're going to see a lot of, run right at you and then hit you deep because they've got all these weapons and I think it's going to look a lot different this year.
And typically fan criticism of play calling is never that it should be more conservative. It's usually we want more passing, we want to go vertical, we really and maybe that's valid in some instances. I'm not saying that it's not, but that's just typically the fan wanting to be entertained more so than doing the whatever's needed or the strength versus the defense. They will almost always default to, we want to see more passing. We want to see them open it up. They're being too conservative. Like Darnell here is complaining about the play calling. I'm just curious when I just see that blanket statement, what specifically about the play calling is not good. Somebody else commented in the live chat, and I think this is a valid concern or it's a valid point. I don't necessarily think it's the case, but over time you would think, okay, if a team is consistently losing close games, doesn't that point us back to the coaches?
Somebody's got to take the blame, but you've always heard they're not the ones out there playing, right? So I think that assigning blame. I think, if you've ever been on a football team, if you've been part of a football team, it's a team game. And, when when you go to battle with your brothers like that, it's everybody's fault equally. And if that's not the way it is, then something's wrong with your team. And yeah, losing sucks. Bottom line. I don't know how else to say it, but yeah.
I think that the before you go here real quick, Zach, I just think that the premise there is that if it becomes a trend that you're always losing close games, then if your talent is good enough to play within one score, then they're probably showing over time that they are as good as the opponent. Therefore, is it a play calling issue? Is it a preparation issue, a scheme issue, something that's more coaching related? Because if your team's playing within a score consistently, then they're probably as talented as the other team.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. I'm going to throw a wrench in here. I'm going to take it to baseball because I'm a college baseball player, but that happens all the time. With the year we had a year where we just lost a lot of games really close. And it seemed like a lot of the players always, even the players sometimes, like on our team, that's, why we didn't have good chemistry, obviously, but they were blaming it on coaches when we lose late in the game, saying, the right pitch wasn't called. Well, you're the one making the pitch, and you're the one that made the mistake. And it took me like 3 years of college to finally connect that and be like, wow, that's my fault. I'm taking the blame for it because I'm the one that made the mistake. And whether he made the call or not, and it's the same thing with play calling. He might have made the play call, but if you didn't execute it, fans are quick to jump on the play call. The play call was bad. On that 2-point conversion that was for the game, or for example, like maybe the execution just wasn't there and he didn't make the right read right away. So I think there's a little bit of give and take with both, like Greg was saying.
Yeah, and some of those games when they just got handed to them, and you still got to talk to those guys after the game, and it's so heartbreaking to, it's like you don't even want them to have to come out and talk about it afterwards because they don't have the answers for you. I mean, they're just as confused why they're losing like that as anybody, and I think that the program lacked direction for too many years, and and I saw a change in these guys in the last couple of years where now they're not going to take things as badly, and because I think that they know the culture has changed and it's changed for the better. So we'll see. And I expect that, that they start winning these, like I said, these 50-50 games that they need to win.
We've got a Florida State show every week with James Coleman. He played fullback for the Seminoles in the early 2000s. And when he's hit with that play calling question or complaints, he almost always throws it at the players and says, every play is designed to succeed. It's been designed and it's in football to succeed. Otherwise, team after team after team would not be running that play because, you can look at Nebraska's playbook. Is it anything unique? Maybe it is in the way they call it or so forth, but all those plays are not, they're called by, 80% of the teams across the country. So they've been proven to be fundamentally sound football plays.
Yeah, the difference is in the terminology, absolutely, and I think every coach's goal is you play calls to get the ball into the hands of your playmakers. I think, right? I mean, that gives you the best chance to win. So yeah, it's definitely, the players are out there for a reason, and that's why you practice, and that's why you keep running it until you get it right.
We've got D-Rock Irish on the line. I want to remind everyone that we're here talking Nebraska football each and every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central with Greg Peterson from Husker Online. We always appreciate him being here as our core of the show. We got Zach Reeder on the line this from Fifth Quarter College Football. So D-Rock Irish is asking, basically stating that as of May 6th, Nebraska is one of 13 states, I should have worn my contacts, who signed legislation in to allow athletes to get paid for name, image, likeness. Only Nebraska, Michigan from the Big Ten. Thoughts on how this will impact the Huskers?
Well, this is a game changer for college football across the board because this is forcing the NCAA. They're meeting this week, and then they won't meet again until June, and they need to come up with some type of plan before this all goes in to effect here. July 1st, I believe, is when this can all start happening. So, how does that change recruiting? Obviously, a player, if you're going to be able to get paid and make money, you're probably going to go. That's going to make you go to a different school than you might have gone to. And this affects Nebraska big time because the name, image, and likeness is huge. I think I've touched on it before. Just for the popularity, if you're a football player for Nebraska, you're pretty popular, and you're going to make some money off of your name, image, and likeness. So now the whole thing is so confusing that because the NCAA doesn't know what they're going to do with it yet. How do you govern it? It goes back to, who's going to stop a booster from saying, hey, I just hired this guy to come and it's like we used to see. I just hired him to come and work at my car dealership, but he doesn't ever have to show up for work and he still gets paid. And, so we don't know what it's going to do, but right now, I think it's a huge advantage for Nebraska and some of those other states. Like Alabama is one of those states, and I don't think Alabama needs any help getting those 5-star recruits by having to throw the name, image, and likeness out there for them. But Tennessee is another one. So it's like I said, it's a game changer, and I don't think college football is ever going to be the same when this starts to take effect and all across the nation, because eventually everybody's going to have to do it. It's just too much of an advantage.
I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I don't really see why it would only be some states. It's definitely going to they're going to have to speed the process up to get everybody, on the same page as soon as possible, or else there's going to be just recruiting battles that end strictly because they want to go, make money for their name, image, and likeness. And that, as much as that would benefit, like in Nebraska, say right now, it's also just not very fair in the long run.
There you have it. Another Huskers Live show. We know that there are other comments and questions in the live chat, but we've hit our hour mark. So come on back next week. We've got a lot of time before August camp to kick around all sorts of topics and so forth. And it was running through my mind that with these preseason magazines set to come out and us talking about, for example, the Nebraska defense and how it shapes up against the rest of the Big Ten potentially, it'll be interesting to see those position and unit rankings by the various magazines and where they place Nebraska. And we can certainly chop that up among other things as, again, we take our way through the summer. So we got Zach Reeder on the line from Fifth Quarter College Football. And, of course, the guy that makes it go, Greg Peterson from Husker Online on Rivals. Guys, we appreciate it as always. Greg, thank you so much for making this happen. And you guys have any parting shots before we hopefully get it back together next week?
Just can't, season can't come soon enough for us. So, pretty soon here, summer conditioning taking place. And, before long here, we'll be rocking camps heavy here in June. So can't wait for everything to get rolling here.
Yeah, all I can say is go Huskers. About all there is to say to end it.
There you go. Well, I absolutely love talking college football, but I love watching it more. So to Greg's point, yeah, it's the longest off season in sports, And it seems like forever since we saw a college football game, and like it's going to be forever. But hang in there. We'll get you there. Let's enjoy the summer, and we'll be in August camp before you know it. All right, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Sounds good.